Hello, and thank you for viewing this presentation on food safety for the holidays. My name is Justin Huselman with the Sauk County Health Department, and I hope you enjoyed the following presentation. We want your holiday get-together to be fun and safe. In this presentation, we're going to go over a few things that can help you make your food safe for you and all of your guests. First, we're going to talk about food storage. Then, we'll talk about hand washing. Third, we'll talk about how to thaw and prep your foods. Next, we're going to go over cold holding and hot holding. And lastly, what do you do with those leftovers when you're done at the end of the party? Food safety starts with proper food storage. To properly store your foods, place the raw meats on the bottom of your fridge. However, in most residential coolers and refrigerators, you'll find that the vegetable and fruit drawers are on the bottom. So how should you store your food then? Start by putting the raw foods on the lowest possible shelf. Placing them in a pan or other container and covering them will help prevent against food contamination. Next, place items such as eggs or casseroles that still need to be baked. And lastly, place dips, cheeses, and desserts that no longer need any food prep on the top shelf. Remember to keep all raw foods as close to the bottom as possible, keeping foods covered to help prevent cross-contamination, and keep all foods that do not need to be cooked on the top shelf. Hand washing is one of the easiest and most effective ways to prevent foodborne illness. But when should we wash our hands? You should wash your hands before you begin working with any types of food. After smoking, eating, and drinking, after handling raw food, after handling garbage, after using the restroom, and in between cleaning up the areas of other food prep, you should wash your hands. But how do we wash our hands? Wash your hands with warm water and soap, scrubbing and lathering it up for 20 seconds. Don't forget to get between the fingers and the fingernails. Rinse off, and make sure to turn the faucet off with a paper towel. Don't use your hands that you use to turn on the faucet, as you'll just end up recontaminating your hands. Also important to note that when you're working with food, make sure you remove all rings, watches, and bracelets to prevent food contamination. Next, let's talk about thawing and preparing foods. Always thaw your items in your refrigerator. But how long do we thaw turkeys? Here's a quick chart on how long it takes to thaw a turkey under refrigeration. It's advised to keep thawing things under refrigeration and not to thaw them on the counter or in the sink, because parts of that turkey will warm up faster than the internal parts. So eventually you'll have pieces above the 41 degrees, which is what we want to keep everything cold holding at. And we'll get into cold holding later on. But let's start talking about how do we prepare our foods. This chart shows how to cook foods to a specific temperature. So when you look at plant foods, rice, pasta, vegetables, if you're going to be hot holding those items for your guests, you want to get that over 135. As far as whole muscle meats, such as a roast, prime rib, or a ham, you want to make sure you get those items to 145. Ground meats, such as hamburger, brats, fish sticks, or eggs, not being made right away to order, so think of an egg bake in the morning if you're doing a breakfast, those things need to be cooked to 155. And lastly, your turkey or stuffed meats, chicken, all need to get cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees. So how do you check that? Using a thermometer that you've calibrated will go a long way to help you with that. And going over thermometer calibration, you're going to want to put your thermometer into ice water. And the temperature you're looking for is 32 degrees, plus or minus 2 degrees. After we're done cooking or preparing those items, we need to make sure that they stay in the proper temperature zones. Make sure we keep hot foods hot. That means maintaining hot foods at least 135 degrees. Keeping them in the Nesco or a crock pot will help do this. Sometimes you pull out a turkey to carve it, but after everybody's come through and picked off what they need, what they would like, you can always put that item back in the oven to help keep it hot, covering it so it doesn't dry out. As for your cold foods and desserts, keep those as cold as you can, 41 degrees or under. You can do this by putting them in a container with ice to help keep them chilled, pulling them out only directly before service, or filling the containers only as much as need be, and then refilling them as the day goes on. However, realize that if you're refilling those cold containers, you need to change those containers out every 4 hours to help prevent cross-contamination. The ultimate goal is to make sure we keep these foods out of the temperature danger zone. So between 41 and 135 is where bacteria really begins to grow on foods. And so we want to keep those items either hot above 135 or cold below 41. So at the end of the day, how do we handle leftovers? After everyone's done eating, make sure to properly put cold food back into the refrigerators, or toss any foods that haven't been kept cold or hot. To cool hot foods down, place them in small containers, in containers of ice, or in freezers to help them cool. Also, keeping them uncovered will help facilitate faster cooling. Remember, we want to make sure foods get out of the temperature danger zone as fast as possible. So keeping foods above 135 and below 41 during service is optimal. And then as long as we're cooling foods down between 135 and 41 within 6 hours, that'll help prevent bacteria growth. And that concludes our Food Safety for the Holidays PowerPoint. We hope you and your family have a safe and happy holiday season.